Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Chad Foster, welcome to the conversation today.
Thanks for having me.
It is a real pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Atlanta. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about resilience and navigating change and transformation. You approach resilience in an interesting way. And as I was prepping for this episode and looking over your materials, one way you frame it is resilience reimagined. And so I'm excited to hear about kind of your unique perspective on resilience, given your own context and background. As we get started, I wanted to share Chad's bio with everybody. Chad E. Foster is a trailblazer defying limitations with resilience and innovation. Despite going blind at 21, he's a rainmaker, billion-dollar generator, and tech innovator. Graduating as the first blind executive from Harvard Business School's leadership program, Chad created CRM software for the visually impaired, doing what tech titans said couldn't be done. Thriving in a Fortune 500 company, he directed financial strategies that produced billions in revenues and best-in-class margins. Now, there's a whole lot more I could share about Chad, but I'm going to pause there. Anything you would like to share with the audience by way of your background or personal context before we dive on it?
I guess, just quickly, I do things that most people don't associate with blind folks, whether that's jumping out of airplanes or downhill skiing on double black diamonds or competing in Brazilian jiu-jitsu tournaments. I tend to do things that aren't the most comfortable, even if you can see, maybe. And the fact that I do them without being able to see maybe is a little bit more unusual, but I feel like we have to continue to be uncomfortable to continue to grow.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. If we're comfortable, we're really not learning, are we? And so if we want... If we want growth, we have to push ourselves, get out of our comfort zone, challenge, learn. It means we're going to fail. We're going to fall down, but we'll pick ourselves back up and be able to do cool stuff. And so what a great example. And yeah, you just listed a whole bunch of stuff that I can't even imagine doing myself. And I am not visually impaired in any way. But it just sounds crazy to me. I am scared of heights. I don't want to jump out of a plane. I don't do jujitsu or any of those sorts of things. Anyways, very awesome.
It was a little intimidating, and I wasn't too far from you when wasn't that I started there, but I've certainly skied in the Park City area before and enjoyed some of the powder that you guys have there. But you're absolutely right. It's so important that if you understand you're never getting outside of your comfort zone, you're never being uncomfortable, then you'll never grow. I think of comfort zones as complacent zones, and nothing really innovative ever happens when we're being complacent.
Yeah, yeah. And yet, that's kind of human nature. That's where we like to be stable and predictable and safe. And so you really kind of have to push past all that evolutionary psychology that's deeply wired in our brains to get yourself to the point where you can actively seek that without being bombarded by fear or anxiety. And there's always going to be some of that. Like I'm always going to have nerves. I'm always going to, if I'm doing something I'm not used to, or it's a first time, or I think there's a good chance I'm not going to be successful right away. Yeah, I mean that's something that gives people pause, but learning to embrace the ambiguity, the discomfort, learning to embrace this growth learning mindset where we know, we're gonna fall down. It's okay, and we'll just pick ourselves right back up. And sooner or later, all you have to do is try to be 1% better every day in learning something new, trying something different. And in the aggregate, that transforms your life. That will allow you to do so many just amazing things and accomplish things, have great relationships, all the different things that I think most humans want.
If you get 1% better every week, it's 68% better in a year and over 17,000% over a 10-year horizon. It's literally compound interest on incremental progress. And so just like what you look at in an amortization table, being a nerd, that's kind of what I did for a while, looking at amortization tables and things like that. But you look at that and what you can invest in yourself Imagine being 17,000% better at something 10 years from now. Well, it starts with the little actions that make you just 1% better every single week. And I see that all the time in jiu-jitsu. You show up and it's hard and it's uncomfortable. It's scary from time to time, or at least at first it is. And you push through and you get just a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And you don't realize it, but in several years, you look back and go, holy smokes, I'm actually learning this thing that seems so hard at first, and it is very hard. But, in my opinion, things that are very hard are the things that are worth doing. It's the easy things. Who gets motivated to go and do the simple or the easy? Like for me, what motivates me is doing things that are hard because it's more fulfilling when you are actually able to make progress on that thing, whatever it may be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in the introduction today, I talked about how, you speak, you do all sorts of cool stuff. And one of the things you
Mhm.
often talk about is resilience reimagined, navigating change and transformation. Tell us a little bit more about your framing around resilience and what that means in your mind.
Well, I have what I've unpacked over the last 10 years. I started looking at my own career, trying to understand how did I end up where I'm at? Because looking at where I'm at, I'm a little outside the bell curve. Looking at the organizations I've been in, I've been in the top 1% of the organizations that I've worked for, and I was literally the only blind person there. And I
Mm,
started really genuinely wondering, how in the world did I end up here? Because this really isn't all that common. Not only did I come out of blindness in one piece, I was actually better off than before. How did I end up becoming as fortunate and as blessed as I've been able to do? What were the mindset shifts and the actions that I needed to take that took me from being a victim of going blind at 21 years old and having to reimagine my life and what that meant for me, what I wanted to be when I grew up, and having to say goodbye to all the things that I thought I was going to do and all the things that I thought I was going to become, to then reinventing myself and going from, okay, I wanted to go into the medical field, went blind in college, can't really do that. So ended up going into business administration, started working for a big tech company. Initially, it was writing code, doing analyst work, and so learning how to write code, being able to program software without being able to see my computer screen, and then doing market intel for a commercial outsourcing company, and then doing the pricing of multi-billion-dollar commercial outsourcing deals. And so learning marketing, learning financial modeling, learning outsourcing, and then going into defense contracting and leading a pricing strategy and solutions organization that captured multi-billion dollar government programs, and then going to Red Hat and getting into the software industry and leading not only their global deal making team, but the corporate finance team when IBM bought us for $34 billion, dollars, which was the largest ever software acquisition. So, how did I continue to reinvent myself? How did I continue to adapt when life just kept throwing curveballs at me and when I wanted to continue to stretch? And that really is what I've unpacked as what I refer to as the anatomy of resilience. I speak
mm,
about this, through my speaking business. I have a coaching business. Last year, I was fortunate to be the number one speaker for the world's second largest bureau, where I've traveled all over the world from cities as far flung as the Middle East and South America, North America, Europe, and everything, everywhere in between, talking about my blind ambition framework, helping people understand what it takes to be more resilient. And I've really boiled it up to 5 pillars that I think are the essence of thinking more resiliently. So, what does it take? We hear a lot about the need to be more resilient, but I don't really hear a lot about what it actually takes. To me, it tends to
yeah.
sound like, I don't know, like platitudes. Hey, try harder and don't give up and keep going and push. And those are symptoms of being more resilient, but they're not particularly helpful when you're in the middle of that change curve, when you're having to deal with the hard things that are coming at you. And so what I've done is I've unpacked what it takes to shift your mindset so that, yeah, you will try harder and you won't give up and you'll keep pushing, but it's because of the mindset shifts that you actually make inside your own mind and how you choose to attach yourself to the circumstances. And so I could give you a quick overview of those if you'd like, of what those 5 pillars are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to comment before we dive into those.
Yep.
Absolutely, we need to get beyond the platitudes. It's nice to have the affirmations and the nice posters and there's lots of things that are great reminders for us, and there's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that. But
Yeah.
if we never get past that into the real nitty gritty of what it actually means, how we actually do it, how we actually build that muscle, and exercise it,
Absolutely.
then it never goes beyond platitude, right?
No, it
And
stays
we
at the
we might
surface.
we
And
might make ourselves feel better for a moment, or someone else feel better for a
yeah,
moment, but it's not going to actually
yeah,
drive change.
exactly. Exactly. It's surface level. And it's like, okay, I'm pumped up now. And then I leave and I go home and, and 3 days later I get consumed by the reality of the world that I live in. And I've not
Well,
really
yeah, can
changed
I comment
anything.
on that? Because
Sure.
you're absolutely, we've all found ourselves in those situations where we're in a motivational setting, someone's riling everyone up and getting everyone excited, and you feel like you're
Yep.
flying high and you feel like you can do anything, right?
Yep.
The
Yep.
the problem is those emotions don't last. Like we all have ups and downs in how we experience each and every day. And so you could feel like the most motivated, empowered, and excited to go tackle the world and whatever thing, you're going after in the
Hmm.
moment. But a couple hours later, a day later, a week later, that isn't going to sustain you. You have to have
Yeah.
foundation to build
Yep.
upon in order to
Yep.
be able to actually do the things that will help you to be successful. It's a spark. It can spark you towards, those
Yep.
things, but it's in and of itself, it's just not enough.
Well, that's largely how I look at my keynote speaking and things that I do. It's my story allows me to create a spark, to crack open a window to a person's soul because of what I've been
Yeah.
through, the difficult journey that I've been on. But then, okay, beyond that, more than just inspiration, how do I help them by giving them the tools that they can use when they leave my presentation to take back to their homes, their organizations, their teams, their lives, so that they can continue to apply the concepts and so that they don't have to feel limited by their circumstances. They don't have to feel stuck by whatever's going on around them, so that they do feel empowered and they do derive motivation, not because of the rah, rah, rah thing that I said during the keynote, but because of how they are attaching themselves differently to the circumstances they find themselves in, which is self-sustaining.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Yeah. With that said, I just wanted to reiterate what you were
Yeah.
focusing on there.
Yeah.
Let's dive on into your framework.
Yeah. So the 5 pillars, they're 5 pillars to think more resiliently. Number one is you have to recognize that you get to choose your response. So recognizing that none of us get to choose the circumstances that we find ourselves in, but we all get to choose how we respond. And you're not responsible for all of your circumstances, but you've got to be accountable for your outcomes, for your life. If you're not accountable for your life, who will be? If I'm not accountable for my life, who will be? I've got to own my life. You've got to own your life. We have to choose how we respond. And so that's really important. Pillar number two is you have to tell yourself the right stories. Now, essentially, all of us will become the stories that we tell ourselves. When I went blind, I could sit around and just choose to tell myself that I went blind because I've got terrible luck, and that could be true. Or I could choose to tell myself a better story, a story that says, hey, I went blind because I'm one of the few people on the planet who can deal with that and use it as a tool to help other people so that they can overcome their own challenges. Now, both of these stories can be true, whereas one of them paints me as the victim, but the second one, the better one, is a Jedi mind trick that transforms my disability into my strength. So you have to be very mindful and intentional about the stories that you tell yourself, because at the end of your life and your career, I promise you, you will have become your stories. Now, pillar number three is we have to visualize greatness, and sometimes we have to do this in unfavorable circumstances. I had to figure out how to make blind look good. It's a little tongue in cheek, but the reality of it is, if I could never reimagine a future that's anchored to the reality of my situation, going blind, but bold enough to inspire me to do the hard work and take the actions to continue to grow and continue to push, then I could never move towards acceptance of my situation. So I had to visualize greatness even when going blind. And at first, for me, it was becoming a successful business person, which meant I had to get a college degree and get a job. And I wanted to be a role model for other people and climb the corporate ladder and all those things. And then eventually, I evolved that vision to include helping people with what I've learned along the way, whether that's becoming an international keynote speaker, author, coach, all the things that I'm doing today. And so we have to visualize greatness in our circumstances. The fourth pillar really is where mindset meets action. You've got to get comfortable with discomfort. We talked about this at the beginning of the call here, the meeting. And it really is about understanding that life begins outside of your comfort zone. If you are never getting outside of your comfort zone, then you're not growing. It's the only way that you can grow. It's the only way that you can innovate. The only way that you can continue to adapt is to continue to push and do the hard things to be uncomfortable. I do that through skiing and through jujitsu and through reinvention, whether it was getting into speaking. I didn't want to be a speaker. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I was elected as a graduating speaker when I went to Harvard, and I was terrified, like most people. I was more scared of speaking than I was dying. I'd rather be the guy in the pine box than the guy giving the eulogy at the funeral. But now that's literally what I do as a career. And I wanted to do something bigger than me. And that's what gave me the courage to step through the fear and become a keynote speaker that I am today. And so if I'm going to tell folks to be comfortable with discomfort, I realize that, yeah, I believe in this. Now I've got to apply it to my own situation. So sometimes it's physical, like the jujitsu or the downhill skiing, or sometimes it's mental, it's personal, it's professional, it's all the things, right? Continue to expand in different ways, whether that's evolving into a deeper sense of self with some of the work that you're doing with a coach, or on stage, or in a new profession, but continue to push and find new ways to grow and expand. The fifth and final pillar that I talk about is taking advantage of your disadvantages. And the idea here is that every perceived disadvantage creates some advantage if you can just use it in the right context. And so for me, looking at my situation, I tell a lot of stories, some of them humorous stories about how my blindness helps me. But if you think about it, I'm a better communicator, I'm a better listener, I'm more thoughtful because I don't have a lot of things distracting me. I'm more focused on the conversation at hand because I'm not seeing all the notifications coming in from my smartphone. I'm able to be more introspective because I'm not distracted by what my eyes are telling me. And on the mountain, I'm not scared of the pitch. You get on the mountain, you're going down a black diamond. Most people are terrified because they're looking at the mountain and how steep it is. I don't see any of that. Most people are looking at the mountain, all the things that can go wrong, all the pitch, all the elevation, all the terrain, and I'm just focused on the next right turn and then the next left turn. And so the idea here, we all need bold visions of greatness that inspire us to take action. But when you're on the mountain and you're getting ready to execute in your life, in your career, you want that bold vision of greatness that has inspired you to take action. But when it's execution time, you just got to zoom in on the next turn. Like, don't get distracted by all the things that can go wrong. Just focus on the next turn.
I love it. I love it. What a great framework, great pillars. And I agree. Like, just step into the darkness, take that next step, and do the best you can. And that's all we can do. And that if we do that consistently, we're going to have tremendous outcomes. Well, Chad, I note the time. I need to let you get going here in a minute. But before we wrap things up, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, and then give us the final word for today.
Sure. They can connect with me on my website, chadefoster.com. From there, you'll find all my social media handles. You'll find videos, links to the book, links to the masterclass, links to coaching, all the things that we do there. Again, that's chadefoster.com. And the thing I would leave you with is, in this world that we live in right now that's changing so fast, and bear in mind, this is the scary thing, but this is true actually, with AI on the horizon, or actually in our face, I guess I should say, the way that it's showing up right now. It was on the horizon 6 months ago. Now it's everywhere. The pace of change that we're experiencing right now is the slowest that we will ever know for the rest of our lives. So I just want to let that sink in for a minute. This is as slow as it will be, which means we will have to be more adaptive, more nimble, more able to reinvent ourselves and pivot and find new and creative ways of doing what we do. With that, trying to predict where things are going to be in 5 years is kind of a fool's errand, I think. So how do you just figure out how to do the next right thing? So, okay, 5 steps from now, great to have that plan. Sure, look out 5 steps, but the most important one is the next one that you're going to take. So make sure you get that next step right, because that's the one that is most certain. And again, with all the change and velocity of change that we're experiencing, who knows what will be 5 years from now? I don't think any of us can predict where this is going. Just make sure you get the next move correct.
Yeah, I love it. Chad, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Chad can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.